Hey guys, Dre here, back at it with a brand new video for you, and we've got a big story coming out of the land of Formula E and the world of virtual racing. That's something that I think is probably worth a discussion. Now, I wasn't planning to make this video, but with recent developments in the last couple of hours, I felt like now was a good time to put it out there. But if you like the tone of this video, if you like the video in general by the end, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications when I am releasing new content. And yeah, thank you. It means a lot. I don't want to rabble on too long because this is a lengthy story and I don't want to have any wasted time. So, to catch us up, we had a round of Formula E's stay-at-home virtual racing challenge this past weekend in a virtual form of Berlin. Daniel Abt took part in this race amongst his other professional series. I believe now pretty much the entire roster of Formula E are now taking part in this series as we know it in 2020. He finished third in said race until it surfaced on Sunday that Daniel Abt had used, and to borrow a term from American sports, a ringer. As in, he had someone else pretend to drive the car for him. That person was Lorenz Hosring. Sorry if I butchered his name there. He was racing in the Sim Challenge series, the separate race that they do during these events for professional sim racing drivers that are on the circuit, going from event to event, taking part in multiple disciplines, multiple tours, multiple circuits, etc. They are the professional sim racers, the Bono Huises of the world, you know, the Brandon Lees of the world, etc., etc. You've probably seen them in other series enough as it is. So yeah, Daniel got Lorenz to basically drive for him. Daniel himself was not in the lobby for the race itself. Apparently he obscured his vision as the race was going on. A couple of drivers pointed that out after the race. Abt wasn't available for an interview afterwards, neither was Lorenz. This situation escalated quite quickly. I believe it was on Monday the story dropped that Abt was disqualified from the race for having someone else take part for him, and he was forced to make a mandatory €10,000 donation to charity in the form of a fine. Now, we thought this might have been the end of the story. Okay, we all laughed. Abt used the ringer. He's had to be fined 10 grand for it, which in and itself is a lot of money to fine a racing driver. A 10 grand fine for having someone stand in for you in a virtual race? Okay, fair enough. They fined him. We thought that was the end of it. It had gone one stage further this morning. I'm recording this on May 26th. This morning, Audi Sport announced that it is suspending Daniel Abt from its racing team in all forms. Now, I've spoken to people like Hazel and Katie about this. I've seen their tweets on Twitter. By all reckonings, this could be a Formula E career ender for Daniel Abt. You'd already spoken to many of the journalists in the scene saying that if Abt or if Audi Sport didn't re-sign him at the end of last season, he'd probably leave the sport because of the affiliation between Audi Sport and the Abt name. I know his family and his dad is deeply involved in the racing team, but he kind of knew that he probably wouldn't get another opportunity elsewhere if he wasn't re-signed. And now this very well could be the end of his Formula E career, and he's a pretty solid Formula E rider. He's helped Audi win Constructors' Championships in the past. He's been a big role in that team alongside Lucas Di Grassi, and well, he's gone. And this, of course, has firestormed a massive kick-fire debate about virtual racing. Do these punishments fit the crime, etc., etc. Now, I don't quite know where I stand on this one, because if you, like, in essence, my first instinct when I first read this story about him being suspended was, that seems overly harsh. That was the impression that I got watching. It was seeming to be a very harsh penalty for a race that is virtual. It doesn't really count for anything. But then I did a bit of digging, and I did some more thinking about the scenarios and the way this has played out in this downtime during this global pandemic. And then you realise it's probably a lot more complicated than that. First and foremost, I didn't realise just how viral this story had spread about Daniel Abt using a ringer. This story about what he did in a virtual Berlin race during the Formula E Stay-at-Home Challenge, it was picked up in The Guardian, it was picked up by CBS Sports in the United States, it was picked up in the Irish Times, the Evening Standard. So in other words, multiple newspaper sites had picked this up. A lot of journalist sites that don't normally cover these sorts of series to this sort of depth and level have chipped in and published the story. So this story got a lot more traction than met the eye. I can see why. On the face of it, it's almost a humorous sort of story. Oh my god, he used the ringer. That's hilarious. You know. And again, on the face of it, it's a silly prank. And I don't think Daniel meant it as anything more than that. But obviously, it has bigger consequences to that when you're representing people. Now, I'm never going to root for a multi-billion-pound brand or industry. Like, yeah, go Audi with all its big money. And, you know, I don't generally like to publicly declare my backing for corporations. But this is a complicated story. I mean, look at it like this. He's also representing Audi as a brand. And this is something that could be a potential contract breach. I don't know what specifically it says in drivers' contracts, but there is certainly a case you can make that he brought the team and the brand of Audi as a manufacturer and as a brand into disrepute by doing what he did. Because on the face of it, it was quite embarrassing, and it was a story that got a lot of traction on the internet when it first broke out on Sunday morning. So, to a degree, if Audi can argue that Daniels put his contract into disrepute and basically compromised his contract by representing his sporting brand in an exhibition event online and done them PR damage, maybe there's a case you can make for letting him go. I don't know. It's a very, very murky area because a lot of it is up for interpretation. You know, a lot of it is subjective. How can you measure PR damage? How can you measure embarrassment? It's tricky, and let's not get it twisted. Audi as a company and as a brand and as their representation under the Volkswagen Group have already taken a pasting as a result of Dieselgate. In fact, there was a story in The Guardian about this yesterday, and credit to Hazel Southwell for pointing this out on Twitter, that they had found they'd lost in a German court regarding having software that lied about its own emissions numbers installed in their cars. Some of their higher-up executives are going to be in prison for this, and there'll be more coming as the days go by, as these courts are ruling against the Volkswagen Group, and this is obviously ongoing as I'm recording this video. But there's already been significant, harrowing damage to Audi as a brand in recent years, and anything to probably mitigate some of that will probably be seen as a good thing in their eyes from a corporate standpoint. Is it fair? Probably not. But this is what these guys are going to be doing. And on the other side of the coin, though, for lack of a better term, it's not like Formula E were taking this series very seriously in their own right. If anyone's actually watched the Stay-at-Home Challenge over the course of the last few weeks on the internet, the driving standards are shambolic. They're virtually bumper cars out there. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not entirely on the series itself. It's used R-Factor 2 as the sim racer of choice to replicate the series. And the problem with that is that R-Factor is more designed for cars that have internal combustion engines. Formula E is precisely not that. And this is not a representation of their sport anything beyond visuals. Beyond the visuals of, oh, the track is the same, oh, the cars look the same in terms of livery. Beyond that, this is nothing like regular Formula E. This is not a simulation-based representation of what Formula E is on a normal standpoint. It's a glorified bumper car race. The driving standards have been shambolic in the series pretty much from day one. Like, so when you see the series itself, and it's done no self-policing of its own driving standards whatsoever, in the context of how it looks as a broadcast. And remember, Formula E, of course, is sponsored themselves, and they clearly don't give a shit about how its series is portrayed on the internet. They just see it as the big laugh that it was probably intended to be from the start. Again, I saw Hazel tweet about this matter. Again, Hazel, if you haven't followed her on Twitter, please do, at HSouthFE. Please follow her. She's the best Formula E journalist on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. The drivers were told it's a bit of fun. They were not told there's going to be serious implications regarding this series when they were told to take part. They made a big deal about getting the entire roster of drivers in the series in the first place. And now one of their drivers has been sacked for a prank in said series. And yeah, it's not a great look. These drivers were not paid to drive in virtual sim racing. They were not paid to represent their brand in a virtual exhibition race that no one was taking seriously, and then punish him for a prank that put that exhibition fun series in disrepute. It's really confusing, and it doesn't really make any sense in the grand scheme of things. So for that to happen, and then for Abt to get punished for it outside of the confines of this virtual environment, and get punished for real, and potentially lose his job. I mean, it's a suspension, but he's probably losing his job over this. It makes us sit down and ask very difficult questions about these virtual series that every major motorsport you can think of has had over the course of the last few months, the last couple of months of this downtime. Every major series you can think of has had virtual races. We all know what happened with Kyle Larson in NASCAR. He dropped an M-bomb in a virtual race set up by his friends, and he lost his job over it in NASCAR. Now, that nuclear firestorm was probably 110% justified, at least in my opinion anyway, and whatnot. We've had Formula One do its own virtual series. And again, it's no coincidence that these dudes split the real sim racers and the virtual celebrities, like the racing drivers that have their own rigs, and celebrities like Ben Stokes, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, that twat that sang Despacito, Stuart Broad, etc., etc. These guys that are taking part in these races that clearly aren't taken seriously, because if you watch the Formula One virtual Monaco race on F1's YouTube channel, it was a glorified bumper car race. Guys were being taken out left, right, and centre. There was bumps and barges. There was only a half-hearted seriousness when it came to racing and whatnot. Again, is that representing a brand? Is that putting the drivers into disrepute? It's tricky. Even MotoGP's virtual racing series, which is arguably the most laid back of them all, where we've had guys like Marc Marquez, the best driver in the world, maybe the pound-for-pound king of motorsport at the moment, deliberately slow down in a race so he could have a last-lap fight with Danilo Petrucci, one of his friends, in that race. Even they are racing in their homes, but also wearing most of them are wearing their team's gear while they take part, representing their teams and sponsors as brands. The whole thing is one great big fucking mess, as far as I'm concerned. And there's no easy answers to it. And I think it all boils down to one big question. How seriously should we take these events that we're watching on the internet, on TV, etc., that have gone down in the last 2 months? Because, as we've now seen on multiple occasions, there's real-world consequences to some of these actions. And I've already seen Antonio Felix da Costa, who races in Formula E as well, say, you know what, no more Twitch streams, no more taking part in these Formula E races. I refuse. Because now he's seen one of his mates and colleagues lose his job over it. So now, these drivers might be scared of taking part in these events in case they get flagged up for something else, and they don't take part anymore. It's very murky. And nothing, for me, represented the blurred lines effect this is all having than what happened in IndyCar 3 weeks ago. We had a nuclear firestorm go down over the final IndyCar iRacing Challenge race when we all saw Simon Pagenaud take out Lando Norris on purpose, and then Santino Ferrucci take out Oliver Askew on purpose, both of which had major implications on the final race of the series itself that led to Scott McLaughlin winning the final race. You know, we all, and of course, when you combine that with Lando's very passionate fan base of young people spamming streams, it got toxic very, very quickly. Now, as far as we're aware, there was no disciplinary action given out towards Santino Ferrucci and Simon Pagenaud. Certainly by the series itself. We don't know if their teams did anything anything internally that was made public, but I strongly doubt that any actual consequence happened. Especially when we're dealing with Simon Pagenaud, who is one of the best pound-for-pound racing drivers on the planet today. And Santino Ferrucci, who is beloved in IndyCar as their next big thing, whether you like it or not. People want Santino Ferrucci to do well. He's a well-backed, well-respected, certainly amongst the broadcasters and teams and people that scout talent. They rate the shit out of him. So, it boils down to this. How seriously do we take it? Should there be real-world consequences for people taking part in virtual racing series? Because we all know it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out. We've put racing drivers in a video game where the element of danger is gone. The element of consequence is largely gone for anything they do on track. They're going to take more liberties than they normally would if they were driving a real-life car on a real-life track. So with that in mind, should that carry forth into what they're doing behind that in reality when these guys are doing quote-unquote egregious things in virtual races? Even more so when said virtual races don't give a shit about how they're portrayed on the internet. Of course, like I said, I get it. I get to a degree why Audi made the decision to suspend Daniel Abt and let him go. I mean, yes, it was an embarrassing story. And yes, what Daniel did was wrong. And yes, it was a dumb prank. I don't think there was any malice involved. Me and my heart of hearts says it was probably a very harsh thing to do for someone to lose their job over a virtual race that nobody gave a shit about. But what do you guys think? How seriously should we take these events? Should Daniel Abt have lost his job? Do you feel sorry for him? Did Audi do the right thing in suspending him? Was a fine enough of a punishment? I'd love to hear you guys' perspective on all of this, because this is, for me, this is a very, very tricky situation to gauge, because no one, I think, really knows how far is too far. And we've already seen two very big incidents that go into that have forced us to sit down and debate as to what these series are meant to be in this downtime before we get racing again. All I know is that, God, we need a real-life wheel turned in anger soon, because people are going to go crazy. I've been Dre Harrison. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys soon. Sayonara.